Welcome back to another episode of Terp Trends, where we dive deep into the world of cannabis concentrates and the movers and shakers shaping the industry. Today, I'm joined by a true legend in the hash game, Nick Tanem, also known as Nikka T. He's the one who coined the term solventless and has been at the forefront of hash making for over a decade. As the founder of Essential Extracts, he's pioneered ice water hash and rosin techniques that have set the standard for quality in the industry. His passion for hash making has taken him around the world, earning him multiple Cannabis Cup awards and solidifying his place as one of the most respected names in the game. But Nikka T's journey goes deeper than just cannabis. His passion for music led him to become a respected DJ, and for him, music and cannabis have always been intertwined. Whether it was spinning tracks at the events or perfecting the art of hash making, creativity has been the common thread throughout his career. Now he's bringing his expertise to New Jersey, launching his latest venture in a growing East Coast market. We'll talk about what it takes to scale solventless production, the challenges and opportunities in a new market, and how his journey has shaped his modern hash scene. Roll one up, dad one out, and get ready. This is Terp Trends. Let's dive in.
All right. Yeah. I'm known as Nikka T or Nick Tanem, and that name came from my life as a DJ. I'm also a DJ as well as a hash maker. I started the company Essential Extracts. It was the first licensed tax-paying hash company in the United States. Just blessed to still be here operating today and fulfilling my dreams, doing what I love. I coined the term solventless, and initially I got a lot of backlash and haters, and I still get that today. But it's pretty cool to see the community and the industry grab a hold of that term and run with it. And it's a household name now at this point. We're not really close to infringing on distillates numbers in most markets, but I think that solventless is quickly growing as education increases, solventless spreads around the world. So yeah.
Yeah, man, it is. I mean, it finally reached its way to PA, and not only PA, you are now reaching your journey over here to the East Coast as well, launching in New Jersey. But before we dive into that, man, one of the coolest things I love about cannabis is how people get into it.
Mhm.
We all have such a cool attachment to the essence of this plant when it comes down to it. And when we're bringing it back, what was your first interactions with cannabis like?
First interactions, I had a German foreign exchange student that lived with us when I was about 12, 13 years old. That was like my first time consuming it. But I guess in reality, my first time interacting with cannabis was from a young age. I kind of grew up in a very friendly family, if you will.
Nice, nice. And where are you from originally?
My family's from New York. I'm from the Bay. I grew up in the Bay.
Word, word. So is that what kind of brought you over to the East Coast then? Did you grow up in New York at all, or?
No, I didn't really grow up in New York. I've definitely spent some time in New York, but my family's from New York. We all came in through Ellis Island. So really New York, New Jersey, it's kind of in
Yeah,
between. It's kind of considered both. And so, I've got a lot of love for New York culture. My grandma, like she is New York to me. She said coffee like coffee, rocked a backwards, sideways Yankees hat throughout all my upbringing. Like she's really New York. And so I think that really a lot of it for me is it just gives me joy to bring something back to that essence, if you will.
yeah, dude. Kind of getting back to the roots of it all. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? That's sick, man. And so obviously paying and coining this name solventless, there's been some journeys before that. Do you remember the first time that you saw or tried smoking hash or saw someone making it?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think some of the first times I smoked hash myself was with this tight knit crew of friends that I'm still friends with today. We would like link up in San Rafael on the San Rafael Hill. So I remember like specific like spots, our cuts, our little smoke spots
Yep,
basically that
yep.
we would smoke at. I know that we linked up, at College of Marin, which was the junior college that I went to. So some of those little hiking trails above our junior college were some legendary spots of mine.
That's sick. And then when you were around that, what kind of hash style was it? Was it still more of the bubble hash then, or were people kind of diving into rosin yet?
Oh no, we're talking like
Word.
Rosin didn't exist in the 90s. The term rosin really didn't get coined until this guy named Compassion, Compashin. So like compassion.
Word.
He was on the forums back in the day and he created and coined the term rosin for a very crude mechanical separation where he utilized a hot stainless steel spoon in a hot bowl. This was a very crude level and it didn't yield very much other than what the consumer, sorry, what the hash maker was able to make really for himself. It wasn't scalable until Phil Soil Grown started pressing flower. That's to me what made rosin scalable. Now Phil kind of gives credit back to us and said he saw our lab using a hair straightener. I always try and give credit to Phil, but I think it's back and forth. You know, if you take a look at history of rosin part one and part two, we went over kind of where it all started. So I'd say though, those first times of smoking hash with my little Marin County Bay Area crew, we were either smoking hash on top of a flower screen in a bubbler, in a bong. And then, I think that there were times where we definitely started using screens at that age. But I'd say some of the first times that we smoked hash were utilizing a green screen in a bubbler, a bong, or a pipe.
Yeah. And then what kind of made you lead more to this hash game rather than, I'm sure you were diving into flower, but it seems like you kind of went more into that stream of extraction, right?
Yeah, I mean, I love both. I love the plant in general. But I think at that time in my life, as a teenager looking to get into trouble, I liked the high. I liked the high of hash. I
Yes.
liked that I could get higher. I liked that I could use less. I liked that as a teenager, we were learning ways to find people with trim that they were just throwing away. So it was a way for us to kind of not only consume the product, but also make the product and make money, really, to survive and to buy more product.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Like, where did you find this knowledge to then build off of?
Initially, just within our tight knit friend crew, growing up in Northern
Yeah.
California, cannabis was extremely prevalent in my upbringing and my
Yeah,
growing
dude.
up. And, I had family members that were growing from a young age. I realized it. And then my buddy Armando, I'd say, was one of my first influences and really kind of was like, yo, this is what I've been doing. And he kind of taught me to drive up into the hills,
Yeah.
find properties that had trash bags on the side of the property and fucking put them in the back of a pickup truck. No lie. So Armando was like an influence, if you will, back then. He just kept going to jail though. So we were a little wary, but it worked for us from time to time. We definitely got into some fucking trouble. But and then later on in life, in the late these early thousands, I'd say I was really influenced by people like Mila, and
Yeah, dude. Oh,
studying
yeah.
Mila and what she's done and really just oral tradition. So I was just beating down her door, asking her question after question, traveling to Amsterdam, bugging her 6 hours out of every day, smoking hash spliff after hash spliff. Just ask her, what's this rinse about? How long do you rinse? Are you using clean water? Are you using tap water? Oh, yeah, all the
Wow.
questions.
Wow.
I was the annoying kid in her warehouse for sure.
Yeah, but to have one access to that and to be able to go to it to that much of a source, like that is world changing. You know, that's
Yeah, I
awesome, man.
actually, what brought me to Mila initially, I had heard little bits about her, but what really brought me to her is I had traveled to Amsterdam and I fell in love with these mammoth tusk crutches. So mammoths are extinct, so we're not
Yeah.
killing an animal to kill or to harvest their tusk and make a crutch or a spliff tip out of it. Unfortunately, they've already passed. So, I feel good about that being a cool collection item. The fact that they're extinct means that you can't really make them anymore. You can make them from the stock that's on the earth. So it was a cool, rare, collectible item for me that I kind of found out about in Amsterdam and went searching for them. And I found a really cool seed shop, head shop that I think I bought out of all of their mammoth tusk crutches. And I was like, where do I get more? And the dude's like, have you been by the pollinator shop? And I'm like, huh. I've heard of that. Where's it at? And they gave me the address, and I just literally walked there. I think it took me like
Wow.
45 minutes from this head shop because I was like, I love walking Amsterdam Street, so we'll just try and find it. And I see a door that looks like the photo of like, the Google search thing or whatever. And I'm like, okay, this looks like it's it. And I just banged the door. And it was like a sliding warehouse door. And Mila answered, and I'm like, "Are you Mila? I was told I need to come here. I was told I need to visit you and learn." So yeah.
Wow. I don't know. There's something bigger attached to this plant from what I've learned, and just the way that it can get you to move and connect you to the people that you don't even know that you should be connected to yet. And to me, that sounds like something was really leading you to find that, because I feel like
Sure.
that was a really good encompass of what led to you seeking out, one, the quality that you have, but two, the understanding of where it's coming from. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I wanted to know the history, man. Yeah, I wanted to know the history and all the ins and outs, and I'm still learning.
Yeah. No, if anyone claims they're not learning every day from this, I think that's a little wild to me. You know, I try to be in the rooms where I don't even know what the people are talking about when it comes to this plant, so I can just go home and dive in even more to be like, whoa, like digging into the new stuff like tissue culture and the meristem and all that. Like I didn't know about this stuff. So someone's
Oh
teaching me
man.
this the other day and I'm just like,
And I need to go down that path and just kind of set up my own TC lab too at this point. I just got some TC, some fresh from TC clones in
yeah,
that were like still in the agar, and I had to like scrape off the agar from the roots and
dude,
then plug it. And it was pretty
yes,
fun, even just doing that and just kind of learning like, well, is it going to do better in a plug or is it going to do better in soil? And so I tried
right?
both and we'll see. I just love playing, man. Research and development is a passion.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's what led me kind of to this because it just taps me into people that know way more than me, and it gives me a chance to then share that information with the people that are still in the same books that I am in this journey. And there's no better way to listen to than the people like yourself that are able to, one, take the time to preach to people like us, and two, pioneer that road, which I gotta thank you just personally to taking this time today because it's just sick. And then seeing you come to the East Coast is dope.
And it's
But
funny, you say you're in PA.
yeah, man.
So
Yeah.
I trained, I feel like we brought some of the first rosin to the market in PA. In reality, I trained the Jushi staff probably like 2 or 3 years ago now,
Really
or
nice.
longer. Yeah. So PA passed a law probably 3 years ago where you couldn't add or remove anything in the vapes. So most all butane vapes got pulled from shelves. And
Yep.
so
Yep.
everyone in PA was kind of scrounging and like, yo, what do we
Yep.
do? How do we sell vapes? And a good buddy of mine, why am I fucking spacing his name right now? Of course. He used to be at the clinic. Either way, he went out to PA, started up Jushi, and called me and was like, "Hey,
The clinic
we
in Colorado?
yeah, 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 yeah.
Oh,
That's
word?
that's basically what
Oh,
Jushi is."
yeah. I was just talking about this cat the other day when I was in Colorado the other week catching up with
I don't know why
somebody.
I'm spacing his name. He's a
Yeah.
really good friend of mine, and he's gonna fucking hate me for not remembering his name. But he just popped up on
It's
my radar too, on like LinkedIn or something. Um, just spacing. It's been a long day already,
I
but
know. I
either
know.
way, he called me up and he's like, "Hey, I heard you have the tech to make carts without adding anything, without removing anything." I was like, "Yeah, bro, I got you." So I went out there and initially, they didn't have any washing cultivars. In fact,
Oh
their
yeah.
entire mom library was really, really old classic strains, which was cool in some aspect. They had the NL, they had the White Widow, they had like all these cool classics, but they had them for so long that
Yeah.
after 15 years of spraying these plants in a commercial
It's
facility and flipping, they don't create heads anymore. Interestingly
no.
enough, the NL, the White Widow, all of their cultivars were creating these cystolate stalks. So these stalks, trichome stalks, but no bulbous heads on them. Every single one that we scoped. But I definitely brought them some strains, and they got some cultivars now, and seems like they're doing really well. A few of their employees check in with me from time to time and send me pictures and be like, "Yo, look what we did."
Oh,
So
hell yeah. Yeah. I'm curious to see. I'd have to look into the market to see if I don't believe they're producing rosin at the moment.
shit, they
But
should be.
I hope they start, because PA,
Yeah,
like we
no.
have we're just kind of getting the ball
Maybe
moving
they're just
on.
producing it under a different line. Oftentimes, those
Oh,
bigger brands just launch rosin under another DBA, if you will.
and especially in PA, there's so many umbrellas under these companies.
Yeah.
It's confusing. It's a
Yeah.
mess in my eyes. So that's cool. You're in PA. Nice, man.
Yeah,
I
not
didn't
my
even know
brand,
that.
not my brand, but
No, 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 no.
my,
I know. I'm just
my
saying.
tech. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So what do you look for when you're growing these cultivars? And I know you've probably gone through a an army of them. What are you looking for specifically when you're starting to pop and you're thinking about washing?
Starting to pop what?
Like seeds or going to hunt, and then you're thinking, you want to start finding washers.
Okay. So the first thing, if I'm gonna like hunt washers, I'm gonna basically look for either popping bloom seeds or getting some bloom clones. Right now, I'd say Bloom Seed Co. is kind of like leading the market in producing washers. I also love what Archive Seed Bank does, and there's a few others that I definitely play with. But I'd say the first step, if you're looking for washers, is genetics. So looking for that lineage and looking into the lineage for washing lineage, because you could pop something like super land racy cultivar and see less than 0.002% yields. And then you can run your whole 4 lights worth of that one cultivar. You can take the whole time to pheno hunt it and then come back with literally 1 gram or 2 grams of hash, when everything's all said and done. It's viability is one thing, yield is one thing. It's not the end all be all. Of course, terpenes to me and flavor and compound, all those other compounds are more what I'm looking for. But if you're looking at 0.00 anything, it's not viable. So you
Yeah.
have to look at that viability. And I start by looking at the lineage. And then, when it comes to popping seeds, we're pheno hunting for those specific traits. I'm looking for the aroma, of course. I'm looking for the structure of the nug. I'm looking for how easy it grows. I'm looking for the veg time, the flower time. And then, towards the end of the flower period or that photo period, I'm looking at the tactile sensation on these cultivars, whether it's super greasy like motor oil. If it's like motor oil, I can almost guarantee that it's not going to wash very viably. Sometimes every once in a while, I'll keep or select something that's greasy like that, but it's never anything that I want to wash alone. Sometimes I'll add a greasy cultivar to another batch to kind of create more of a piatella like consistency, but the viability alone is never really there.
Yeah. Nice,
It's
man.
greasy, or even if it's
Yeah.
velvety. I look for like gritty and I look for tacky. And if it has a
Yeah.
combination of gritty, tacky, and greasy, I'm running with it.
Yeah. Another thing that I've been realizing, especially in PA, being at the premature market of education it is when it comes to solventless, is when it comes to curing or drying and how we have definitely different hues, but also different textures. Some are going to be more wet and some are going to be more dry. And then you can also take maybe a drier product from what I'm learning and manipulate it, whip it, and stuff like that. Do you think that's necessary to whip it or everything?
Mhm.
If it's drier to manipulate that?
Oh, it just depends. I think that cultivar allocation is the most important thing. So if you know that that cultivar is going to produce a drier product, I would allocate it to something slightly different rather than
Yeah.
a cold cure. If your customer base doesn't like a dry product, maybe your customer base wants it to be dry and easier to manage or get out of someone even just said something to me while I was in Miami. I had some like super, super loud orange candy stuff, but it wasn't like the wettest thing. And I mentioned that to somebody. I was like, oh, it's not the wettest, but it's super loud and it's just piercing, rig staining type of terps. And he's like, oh man, I don't care if it's wet or not. If it tastes good, if it tastes right, if it's clean, like that's what I want. That's what I care about. And I was like, okay, cool. So people are starting to understand that it's just a cultivar thing that's going to create those different consistencies. If you're making everything into cold cure and some of them are wetter and some of them are drier, it's strain specific, really.
Yeah. But necessarily that's not determining kind of the quality of the hash necessarily.
Not necessarily,
Yeah.
nor is
Yeah.
color.
Yeah, nice. Hell yeah. That's something, it just takes time to put all this more information out there on how we range quality and solventless. People have that tendency. can we say if it's whiter, like a lot of people are pulling early and washing to get this lighter color, and now we're maybe associating that to quality, but I don't think that's necessarily true either. You know what I
No,
mean?
and certain cultivars won't pull early. In certain cultivars, even if you pull it at 85 days, it's still going to be white. So not always is it white due to early pulling.
Yeah. Yeah, nice. So what led you to out of all the states, what led you to really come back to Jersey?
Yeah, so I've been working with this buddy of mine, Angel, for over a decade now. Angel hit me up, and he we were working together in Colorado for a long time. He had retail and
Nice.
cultivation in Colorado Springs, and I had a lab in Denver area, basically, and we were working together for quite a while. He hit me up and was like, "Hey, I've got an opportunity in Jersey. I'm going to be entering the market. I'd love for you to kind of come and play in the market with me." And I was like, "All right, And these days, I work with people,
Yeah.
contracts don't really mean anything these days. I've been screwed over so many times. So now I really just am like, well, I worked great with this guy for over a decade. Like, I'm gonna go that route. If I worked well with this guy, I'm gonna try and work well with him again.
Yeah. Hell yeah. So he already over here and kind of got stuff established, or did you guys have to start from square one and
Yeah,
just
he
like
kind
see
of
what's
gotten
up?
things established. I think with the help of a lot of my guidance and equipment
Oh yeah.
and of that nature. Yeah, he was established before I came into the market.
Nice. So then are you guys processing your own stuff, and then do you have dispensaries too, or are you just leading into stores at the moment?
We just have a processing lab and license. We don't have cultivation, so I have my own cultivation partners, kind of separate from my, lab partners in Jersey.
Nice.
And then we have retail partners as well,
Yeah. What do
but
you guys
no actual dispensary
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah. No worries with that. Sometimes that could be a lot less of a headache then, you know what I mean? Especially
Vertical provides control, which I
yeah.
love. I love that control. Without vertical, it makes it a little bit more difficult to really control the destiny of your brand. But I've learned that relationships are really important, and building and keeping those relationships are alive are kind of what keeps our brand alive. And so, big up the farmers each and every time.
Oh yeah, for sure. What are you guys rolling out with then in Jersey?
We launched with two different cultivars. One was Rainbow Guava from Bloom Seed Co., and the other
Nice.
was Candy Fumes.
Hell
We've
yeah.
got a couple new cultivars dropping in the next few weeks here as well. We're just doing some trial runs as we speak.
Nice. How do you feel about like pens, use of like rosin pens and stuff like that? Are you for that or?
Yeah, we just dropped an all-in-one rosin vape, all live rosin, nothing added, nothing removed, in that market in both the Rainbow Guava and the Candy Fumes. And I think it's a great product. I think we actually launched the very first rosin pen in 2015.
Word.
So it's kind of nice to bring it full circle and put out something that's completely different than what we had first launched over 10 years ago, but something that I can really stand behind and that I personally enjoy. I find myself doing research and development on all the newest hardware and stuff, and I'll always have one of these in my pocket these days. It's like my EDC, my everyday carry, whether I'm on the snowboard hill or whether I'm, in a place where I can't really smoke because I'm a spliff smoker.
Yeah.
But every once in a while, I'm like halfway through a meal and I need to keep eating and
Yeah.
just keep eating.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The convenientness of it. It's a whole new age, and I look at people that are getting into the scene like, man, you have it so easy now. Like we didn't have this back in the day to sneak. We had to do some weird shit to sneak around just to burn, and now we can just sit and just if
For
you have a little
sure.
smoke buddy too, you're good to go anywhere these days,
Yep,
you know?
yep. Our newest all-in-one vape that we just launched in the Jersey market has NFC technology as well, near field communication. So when you put your phone up to the vape, you basically just tap the vape right onto your phone near your camera, and it'll pull up our cultivar information, what the lineage is, who bred it, who cultivated it, because all that information I can't fit on the little teeny box or, with all the other regulatory crap that they make us put on all the packaging. So I like to be really transparent and give people a little read. We also have connected the NFC technology via our vapes to our COAs to really be transparent with our consumers, to let them know that they can look into exactly what is in that product, from all the cannabinoid percentages to the terpene percentages to the fact that there's no heavy metals, there's no pesticides, yada, yada, yada.
How long has this been around? this technology to tap your pen and do this?
NFC technology's been around for a while, I think at least a decade. But in vape carts, I think just in the last year, I've seen them roll
Wow.
out. I think we're
Wow.
the first in Jersey to have an NFC vape on the market.
And is that come integrated into the hardware when you buy it then? So it has to be from a certain vendor that's doing that, or?
Yes. So our hardware is produced by Active, aka AVD. I've worked with them for quite a while now, and they're great hardware partners.
I would
They've
love to
sponsored
get.
my events. They're really involved in the community. I think I even sat on a panel with their lawyer at MJ BizCon or at Planet 13 during the MJ Biz week. And yeah, just really involved in the community and always striving to do better and to be transparent themselves and letting people know what's in their hardware. So they're
Yeah,
great partners.
that is the most important thing in this industry. It's just transparency is key and is king. And I would love to get that hardware just for my brand that I'm working with now, because I think that'd be great for PA, you
Yeah,
know?
hit me offline and I'll send you some links to my salespeople. I do some sales for Active as well, but I'll put you in touch with my people.
Yeah, definitely. What obviously you're into hash, man, so you have a creative sense and your other counterpart of you is the DJ side. What led you into that? Did you always just have that connection to music as well?
Yeah, I mean, my parents must have been playing Bob Marley in the while I was in the womb, man. In fact, I know they were playing Bob Marley while I was in the womb. I uh, I own some of their record collection. I own some of my mom's brother's record collection. My uncle had a big Bob Marley collection in reality, and I've got like the original Kaya album from him. Got a few
Wow.
different pressings of multiple Bob albums from him. I think my parents owned every single Cheech and Chong album, no lie, on vinyl. So, my family was always really into music. I think even just being spiritually Jewish, I'm not religious, but being spiritually Jewish and going to a very reformed temple as a kid, I remember the cantor singing. So, music has always just kind of
Hmm.
been a part of my upbringing. It wasn't until college that I really started DJing
Right.
myself. And I had a roommate back then who was a hip hop scratch DJ. And I think I
Yes.
eventually purchased his old turntables, probably 6 months into living together. And I wanted to play reggae music on turntables, basically. That's kind of what first got me into it is I wanted to play music other than hip hop in the house, and all of the
Yeah.
vinyl that my roommate had was
Hip
all
hop.
hip hop for the most
Yep.
part. He
Yep.
probably had some soul and some funk and a little bit of rock, but it was mainly hip hop. And so I think I got into it initially because I just wanted to like play a little bit of a different style. And then my buddy Synergy, DJ Synergy, kind of taught me how to use the equipment. So he was also
Yeah.
kind of more of a hip hop DJ, but he was more along the lines of like a Z Trip style DJ, where he was a big mashup DJ, remixes. He'd mash up Nirvana with like a newest hip hop beat or whatever it
Hmm.
may be. So he was very eclectic in his selections, and he was able to, along with my roommate Jesse at the time, they were able to teach me how to use the equipment. And then I'd say like I was DJing in Boulder, Colorado for a little bit at some like the
Yeah.
local college bars and stuff. I DJ'd this spot called Reggae Wednesdays at the Redfish Lounge. DJ'd this spot called Trilogy Lounge, some like the classic Boulder, culture lounges, if you will, Boulder culture clubs. Back then, they don't exist. None of those exist anymore. There was another spot called the Iguana or La Iguana. It was like a nice outdoor patio. All these spaces exist, but they've probably changed hands and changed names 15 times since,
Oh yeah.
20 something years ago. But that's kind of where I got my start is in Boulder during college. And then I transitioned to DJing in the Bay Area. I'd say in like 2005, 2007, around then. I'd say by 2007, 2008, I was probably DJing like 5 nights a week in the Bay Area from San Francisco to Oakland to Berkeley. Um, and I'd say the people that really put me on in my own realm in the reggae industry, the reggae realm, were people like Jaw Warrior Shelter. They were huge influences on my career. Now, Jaw Warrior Shelter is a sound system based out of California. Some of the members were from New York, Jewish brethren from New York that are, basically my heroes at this point. And not all of them were Jewish. Just one of them was a Jewish brethren from New York. Let me just clarify. The rest
That's
of them,
it.
they were like, Bay Area and And maybe I don't know if Dole grew up in the Bay. I feel like Dole might have grown up somewhere else. Either way, I grew up with them in the Bay Area, and they really put me on. Not only teaching me about the music and the culture, but also like putting me on events and booking me for opening events and things of that nature. So big up Jaw Warrior Shelter. It's where I got my name, Nikka T. Is they didn't give it to me, but I was influenced by them. Members of Jaw Warrior Shelter were Irie Dole, Ivier, Rocker T, Jaw Weiser. And Rocker T was kind of like the Jewish brethren from New York, and he was a singer and a DJ, and I just really connected with him. And that's kind of where Nikka T came from.
This episode is brought to you by Waddle, the world's fastest and easiest way to review and track your medicinal cannabis products. Waddle offers batch-specific reviews, so you'll know what to stash or what to trash. It's exclusively available for Pennsylvania medical cannabis patients. Waddle helps you take the guesswork out of your cannabis journey and ensures transparency with the verified product tracking. Download Waddle now on iOS or Android. That's WODL. And take control of your cannabis experience today.
This is
Dude.
my influence from those brethren who are still DJing every single day. In fact, they'll all be at Reggae on the River, which we just announced the first artist. I was blessed to perform at Reggae on the River last year, and it's a festival I've been going to for over 2 decades. It's kind of like where I also got my start, along with Jaw Warrior Shelter having or IV Air having a record store on Mission in San Francisco. He had Wisdom Records where I could go and IVR would just put on 45 after 45 after 45, and I'd be like, keep that one, dash way, keep that one, dash way. And I'd just basically tell him which ones I wanted to buy, which ones I didn't like. And then, after a 2 hour session, I'd, rack up 500 or 600 bucks
Oh yeah. Oh
worth of
yeah.
vinyl, and he'd put it in a box for me, and I'd go home and just be stoked to play the newest tunes. And I mean, these are cats that turn me on to like people like Collie Buds. I think that
Yeah.
Ivier played that Come Around tune well before it actually hit radio.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean
Nice.
by put me on. These cats were playing tunes that hadn't come out yet. They were inviting me to events, putting me on the guest list. I'd say well before I ever DJ'd for them, they were just putting me on the list and treating me like family. Eventually, I was then selling weed in the back alleyway of Club 6 while Jaw Warrior Shelter was playing music and shit. And, I found my path, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you found where they two collide and you stuck with it. So were you did you keep your own turntable? Like were you able to actually get these old reggae vinyls, take it to the turntable and scratch with it, or did you have to upload it to a deck and then use it that way?
Oh, when I first started performing, when I first started DJing and traveling as a DJ, I spun vinyl, strictly vinyl, 7 inch
Sick.
vinyl. In fact,
Yes,
I
dude.
rarely even spun 12 inch. So I was playing 45s. I was playing,
Yeah.
7 inch vinyl straight out of Jamaica. And it's a trip because as a young kid, I started collecting vinyl and going down to Jamaica and getting dub plates produced in ghetto studios, shacks basically.
What?
And some of my favorite producers back then, people that I like looked up to, and I was like just like in awe of some of these tunes and the rhythms, because in Jamaican music culture you have rhythms. It's like an instrumental, but you'll have
Yeah.
a producer put out a rhythm, and then like 15 artists will sing on that same rhythm, and then DJs will kind of go out and play rhythms. These days I play a lot more eclectic. I don't play strictly like Jamaican reggae style where I'm playing just rhythms and pulling up tunes. I play on my piano and Afro house and hip hop and soul and funk and you name it. I play it all. I've even been playing some country lately. But
Yep.
you
Sometimes it
know,
just hits, dude.
yeah,
I was never a fan really as a kid. I grew up in like a country type of,
that's what's up.
surrounding
Yeah.
as a kid and like never really took
Yeah,
it
some
in.
of it
And
speaks to me,
lately,
man.
it just kind of hits you at some point. You're like, all
Yeah.
right, I get this now.
Uh,
Call that
so
growing up.
I started playing just strictly vinyl. Eventually, I started getting, some bigger gigs and touring a lot, and carrying around that much vinyl became
Yeah. Just a
arduous.
nuisance. Yeah.
Yeah, so I've now gone digital. I still play vinyl. There's a turntable set up right in front of me here. I don't know on this app. I don't know how to turn my camera, but
Yeah, it's a nuisance today. So
but I've got turntables right in front of me at all times. I do play on
Man.
controllers these days. I'd say that
Yeah.
controllers are a good way for me to travel with carry on as backup. Most of the clubs that I pull up to in Europe, in Jamaica, all over the world have controllers pretty much already in the club, and I can kind of just
Word.
pull up, plug
Yeah.
and
Tap
play.
in.
But
Yep.
I bring my controller as backup just in case. Ideally, I want the club to still have Tech 12s. I want to play on vinyl
Yeah.
because they do make Serato vinyl, where we can basically play digital music on vinyl.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. No, I love scratch sets, old school sets. It's just sick. Like raw DJing, raw MCing, like the true essence of hip hop from back in the day. Being outside of Philly, I definitely was tapped into that by some of the people I grew up with. Did you ever, so you're DJing, so then you got the three elements. Did you ever get into MCing at all?
Oh,
Do you ever grab the
I
mic and
do
do?
MC.
Yeah.
I don't freestyle, I don't sing, I don't rap, but I
Yeah.
host a ton of events around the world. I announce award shows. I yeah, I host MC and announce award shows around the world.
Yeah. Yeah. You ever get down with any paint?
I did write as a kid.
Yeah.
My tag back in the day was what I would put up was sex, SECTS.
Word.
I've always liked sex, but also I've always like found it very interesting the different sects of all the religions, as
Word.
well, from the Bobo dreads to the Rastafaris to, even just in Judaism from Reform Jews to Hasidic Jews, etc. There's always sex in this
Yeah.
life. So sex brings life. You know what
For
I mean? So
sure,
yeah,
dude.
I used to
I
write
do.
sex, SECTS. That was like
Yeah,
my shit.
dude.
I'll still write it every once in a while. I'll
Yeah,
still put it up.
yeah,
Randomly, I'll
right,
be in fucking Berlin,
right.
Germany, and I'll see a fucking
Yep.
fatty marker, and I'll put that shit up.
It's in
But
you.
these
It's
days,
in
yeah,
you,
no,
dude.
100%. You can't fucking take
You
that shit
can't
out.
take it
But
out.
these
No,
days,
you
like
can't.
I just put up stickers and shit too. Like
Yeah,
that part of
slappies.
like my career never died. Like I'll just
Yeah,
travel the world and I'll put these little
it
fucking
just.
Nikka T stickers everywhere. I
Yeah,
still
dude.
do it every
Yep.
single journey. Every time I hit an airplane, I'm putting these up in like the neighborhood I'm hanging out in, or I find a cool tea shop and shit, and I'll put these on the outside of the tea shop. Yeah,
Yep.
it's innate at this point.
Yeah, something about graffiti, I don't know. It's a certain soul to really take it on, but like when you follow someone's name, like I was in Prague and I flew into the airport and I followed this dude's name for like 4 hours until we hit the city. And that's
Yeah.
what whenever I travel, that's like my main thing I'm doing is just like, what's the graph like around here?
Yeah, I
Like I was
love the
just in
street art.
Pittsburgh and I was just like, dude, I just took some time, I had 3 hours to myself and I just kind of drove around and was like, this is cool, and it's
Oh
just
yeah.
putting your
Part
name
of
up
it's
that
yeah, part
journey.
of it's like the kind of self-fulfilling where, these are the spots that I've traveled to and I've like made my mark. Part
Yeah,
of it's, I hate to say it, but I think innately like animalistic, bro. We're
yeah,
literally pissing on our territory
yeah.
like a fucking dog, not to be raw, but like part of it's just like subconsciously animalistic like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not what I'm like trying to put out there, but it's just
Yes,
subconscious animalistic behavior. And
100%.
then the other part is the art, the art aspect for sure.
Yeah, that's sick, man. So what do you think the correlation, do you think you have such a correlation with music and cannabis? Like that connection is so strong and they go hand in hand. Do you think one led to the other with you?
I think they both led to each other. One's not the same without the other,
Yeah.
plain and
Yeah,
simple.
dude.
I can't really listen to music without smoking cannabis, and I can't really smoke cannabis without music or make hash. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. It's just
Yeah.
like yeah, they really go hand in hand, and like there's so many synergies too. Like between specifically the reggae culture that I grew up in and in the cannabis culture. I mean, shit. I think the first time I ever saw a bag of the original headband was at Sierra Nevada World Music Festival, which is a
Wow.
reggae festival I grew up going to since I was a teenager, or at Reggae on the River, for an example. Yeah, like they've always really gone hand to hand. And the fact that I already kind of told you that I used to sell weed at the clubs, and it's
Yeah.
what allowed me to get the gas money to get to the clubs and to pass out the flyers and to promote my event for the next week where I was DJing. You know what I mean? So it's always
Hell
gone
yeah.
hand in hand.
Where do you think? Do you think there's a connection between your process of creating music and then your process in the lab and washing and everything like that?
Yeah, 100%. I don't produce music really at all too much these days. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
little bits here and there and edits and stuff, but I'm not really doing any of the production. I've got like a really solid group of peers that do a ton of production for me. So my sets will still be 80% family produced, if you will, and not like, copyright infringed music that, is played on the radio. I don't really play radio music. I'll always kind of play remixes, friends remixes. Um, you know, uh, yeah, there's a ton of synergies between making hash and DJing. I kind of have to get into that meditative mindset to even record a mix or to go on stage and perform. And the same way before I go into my lab to make hash. And then once I'm there, once the needle touches the record, I'm high. Once the fresh frozen cannabis touches the ice water, I'm like, everything's all good. Like leading up to that though, there's always a little bit of nerves in both the hash making side and the DJing side, especially if I'm making something for another cultivator.
Mm.
I get more nervous rather than if it's just my own single source. You know what I mean? And there's that little bit of anxiety, but it's motivational anxiety. I like that little bit of tenseness before I go on stage. It keeps me on my toes, I guess. It's got me to a point where I can't get super fucked up and go hit the stage. And now, I have in the past and I've learned my lesson, you know what I mean? But it gets me to a point where I just know myself. And I know the mindset that I need to be in to perform to my best ability. And in reality, like life sometimes gets in the way of both hash making and music for me. And, certain things going on in my life will almost give me a mental block in both music and hash making. And I kind of have to take a step back. I don't want to make hash when I'm in that weird mental stage. I don't want to go on stage when I'm in that weird mental stage. To be honest, though, all of last year was really tough for me. My partner at the time was in prison, and dealing with that made my whole ability to perform or to make hash, I wasn't feeling like myself. And, I'm still kind of coming out of that a little bit right now. So I think that that's a big synergy between the two is I have to be mentally right to do either.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. And
have to
going
do justice to the plant like I have to do justice to the people.
Yeah. And what are things that you're doing to kind of bring you into a better mental space if you are going through something
I
that you
need to
just
like
recognized?
I need to have at least either the night before alone for meditation or at least that like 2 hours before I go on stage or before I teach a class or before I hit the lab myself in my own little R&D lab. I need that like, calming, centering stage without anybody around. Like I have a lot of people around me 24/7, constantly performing and speaking to the public. So it's kind of nice, excuse me, for me to recenter and ground and kind of just have calm before I perform.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like
I
it's
just
nice
need
that
to
you're
get
able to
mentally
recognize that.
centered. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. So something I was talking to you about before when we were trying to get all this going, it looked like you were doing a bunch of sampling. You were judging something, the contest. What was that called? The I-95?
Yeah, I
Or
judge the I-5 Cup this year as well as the last couple years.
how'd that go?
It's a beautiful cup, man. Each year the competition gets more and more tight. Better and better products get entered. I was really impressed with the melt category this year.
Nice.
Lots of amazing samples. Yeah,
Yeah.
went really well.
Yeah. And what do you think when you're judging all this stuff? What really separates good hash to great hash in your
It's a
eyes? Because it's probably hard to judge all that stuff. It could be
Yeah, it's a
overwhelming.
combination of things, man. It's everything. I try not to be biased in my assessment, because there's certain things that I don't like. I don't like terpinolene. So if it's like got that like
Hot
super
take.
lemon haze or Durban poison or
Yeah,
something of that nature, I'm not into it.
I'm the
But I try
same.
and set aside my biases and just judge it for the face value. And in judging things for face value, I'm looking at the appearance first, then I'm looking at the aroma or assessing the aroma because you can't really look at smell. But we're assessing the aroma, and then we're assessing the flavor. And then oftentimes the melt or the burn is that fourth category. And then the fifth category that I like to assess is the actual experience of that product.
Nice.
And when you're judging a big cup, it's harder to judge the experience. It's why I like to separate each entry by some time and maybe even some sugar or some food or something to kind of bring the head back to balance. It's also why I won't really, I don't think that it's respectful to the hash maker to judge more than 7 entries within a day. For me personally, I know that some other judges can judge 50 in a day and they're totally fine, but for me personally, I think 7 is a really good number. Of course, I'm still judging a lot of these live competitions where I'm judging 30, 40, 50 in a day in a sitting. However, I'm not as confident in my experience assessment when I'm judging that many. And I think everyone's kind of well aware of that when all of the judges are kind of doing a roundtable judging
Just
session live at a festival or something
yeah,
of that nature. The experience section is not oftentimes as accurate as I'd like it to be.
yeah, yeah. That's awesome, man. Just that you take the time to do that, and just it speaks to how far you've come and how much people really value your take on all this. It's awesome. So wrapping it up, you've gone through a lot of trial and error, and it's always nice to kind of help people going through some stuff. Are there any pointers that you could give the audience that are getting into washing, or maybe they've been pressing for a while? What's some things that they can maybe take into consideration?
Well, when it comes to like actual processing, I'd say cultivar allocation is one of the most important things to take into consideration. So first and foremost, look at which cultivars you're washing. If it's not a washing cultivar with washing lineage, I'd prefer to dry it and cure it and smoke it as flower and retain the value in that realm, if you will. So cultivar allocation is really, really important. The second thing that I really value or would want people to focus on is cleanliness and sterility. So, keeping your environment really clean of debris, making sure all your surfaces are clean, all your tools, all your utensils are clean. And then the third that kind of goes hand in hand with that second one is avoiding cross contamination. It's a big one in hash making. One of the first things that I see, or one of the first complaints that I get when I'm on a consult or I get called by the owner of a company being like, "Hey, what's happening? Why is there residue in the bangers when we're dabbing this product and it's rosin?" So cross contamination is a big one, and cross contamination can not only mean things from your environment like dust and fibers from bags and materials like that, but it can also mean hash itself. Hash itself can be a contamination when you're pressing rosin. So when we teach people to press rosin and fill your bags with the freeze dried hash, do that completely separately than where you're actually going to press. I like to have 3 different stations, one where I'm filling bags, one where I'm pressing them down or greasing them up, and then one where they're actually going into the parchment after they've been completely double bagged, etc. So keeping that cross contamination limited is really, really key. And then from a business standpoint, I'd say trust your gut. That's what I've learned. I don't always listen to my gut, and I got to get better at that. Trust your gut, trust your instinct. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's amazing. Well, Nick, thank you. Thank you, man.
Yeah, man. Much love, Adam. Appreciate it.
Good luck traveling. Have a good week out there, Barcelona, man, and safe traveling back. And hopefully we can link sometime whenever you make it back to the Jersey scene.